get our notebooks out. Let's get our notebooks out and let's talk some photography. Today is photography on a budget, maximizing your smartphone's capabilities. Before we go there, I just want to also make sure I bring up the banners so that way you'll know. Also, if you before join the email listing, just go to our website, my website, ronlouisphotos.com. Sign up for the email listing so that way I can reach you if I need to outside of this platform if it happens to not be here in the future, because we don't know how these platforms will linger or not in the future. So be there. Also, I am an event photographer. I do corporate photography and also personal events. And also, just so you know, we have a Patreon membership here in this community, and they are the ones that support what we do here. So become a Patreon member. If you get something out of this platform, become a Patreon member. Donate, share, commute, and then on that platform, all these lessons, every single lesson is on the Patreon page, so you can check that out and get all the lessons, that everything that we've covered. And last but not least, Photograph Your World. I do virtual basic photography 101. If you want private lessons on photography, reach out to me and I can get that to you. We can work on a schedule like I do with most of my clients. We work with your schedule. I work with your schedule, so that way we can teach according to your cadence and your needs. Okay, so there you have it. Okay, now we are back. We are back with our wonderful photography on a budget, maximizing your smartphone's capabilities. Okay, next. You know what I always say. First thing first, clean your lens. You can always get these nice little cloths at any eyeglass place in your area. Like, just go in and say, hey, do you have a lens, wiper, one of those clean, like little cloths for your lens, really for your glasses? Go as many as you want. You can go to every one of the shops in town and get them for free. And anytime you get ready to take a photo, like when I'm photographing people, or someone gives me their phone and they say, oh, can you take a picture of me? Can you take a picture of my family and I say, did you clean your lens? Oh, really? Oh, I never thought about cleaning my lens. And you take that lens, you take this little guy, clean that front lens, clean it, and clean the back one. Give it a nice cleaning. And then your lens is nice and clean. The first step of great photography is a clean lens. As it says, your first step is to wipe the lens clean, free of dust and fingerprints. A clean lens is the secret to crisp, clear images. I always tell you about the story that I was hanging out with friends in Austin, Texas. We were all eating, and all the family members were like, Ron, you're the photographer in the building. You're the photographer in the building. Why are my pictures so cloudy? And then I went in my pocket and I took this out and said, do you clean your lens? And she's the woman that asked the question. She said, never clean my lens. There is your problem. Okay, so make sure you clean your lens. That's the first step. Clean your lens. Next, harness natural light. The best camera is often nature's own. Shoot during the golden hours, early morning or late afternoon, to give your photos warmth and dynamic shadows. If shooting indoors, position your subject near a window to let soft, natural light accentuate the scene. Now, a lot of this for some folks in this is going to be repeat. You guys already know some of this stuff because we talk about it in many layers of the lessons that we shared on Tip Tuesdays. So it's like a combination of a lot of lessons in one. And we talked about When, and so I want to know from you, since some of you have been here with me for the longest, right? For the longest, what time of the day is the golden hour? What time of the day is the golden hour? Students, don't all rush, but someone give me the answer. Yes, you all know the answer. I know you know the answer because I talk about it all the time. Right? What is the golden hour? Any student in the building? Any student in the building? What is the golden hour? The golden hour. Yep. What is the golden hour, y'all? What's the golden hour? Anyone in the building? Anyone? One. Hey, there we go. Dr. Tachi. Ding, ding, ding. She says 1 hour before sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. Ah, let me just make a correction. Make a correction. You're almost there, Dr. Tachi. You're almost there. 1 hour after sunrise. 1 hour after sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. Okay, so you got that one. But 1 hour after sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. So a lot of times when I have my clients and they say, "Oh, Ron, we're gonna do a photo shoot. We're gonna get that headshot. I'm gonna do the headshot." And they go, "What time do you want us to meet you?" I said, "Around sunrise." And they go, "What? I gotta be there at sunrise?" I said, "If you want a great picture, you want to be there around sunrise. We'll get you all set up, and about roughly an hour, just slightly an hour after sunrise, we are going to do the photo shoot because you have a little window, right?" And we just knock out the photos, and then they go, "Ron, these photos are so beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at my skin. I look so good." And you know, we've already talked about this. Everybody looks good at sunrise and near the hour of sunset. Everyone looks good. The way the light falls on your skin makes everyone look beautiful. Now, I know there's some, Adrian, don't say anything if you're still in the building because I know you got jokes. I know Adrian has jokes on that statement, but everybody looks good at sunrise and sunset. Okay. Charlene says sunrise, sunset. Mimi says sunset. And then, yes, Dr. Tati made a correction. She says, sorry, after sunrise. Yes. And then Anthony says, that's right. Great photos are earned. Right, Anthony? Anthony's a fellow photographer. They're earned. And Lisa says, my living room has the best light at 5:30 p.m. Exactly. You want to take a big show. So Lisa will know. If she's going to take a picture of a family member, she's going to prop them near her window and take that shot. And it's going to be beautiful because she knows the best light is at 5:30, probably right now, because that's going to change. Remember, sunrise changes every day. It gets longer and longer depending on the time it is, or it's earlier and earlier. So remember, it's going to change according to the season and where you are in the season. So 5:30 is midday in the summertime, but in this wintertime, it's dark. Okay, just had to say that. And I see here. Okay, most probably myself, says says our wonderful Lisa. Okay, going to the next one. And again, this gentleman's at the window and get nice silhouette, slight partial silhouette, looking out into the city. Good shot. Okay, master your native camera settings. We talked about this. So here's something to help you to keep your photography. You have all the tools. Here we go. Tap on focus. Did we talk about that last week? Tap 2, focus. Learn to tap on your subject so your camera locks in the perfect focus and exposure. We talked about this last week. We did a whole lesson on this last week. When you take your finger and you put your finger on the subject, it tells the smartphone to focus in. Don't just take out your camera and take a shot. Take out your camera, put your finger on the subject. The camera will adjust and make that portion of the screen, that portion that you're taking a picture, the subject, sharp. It will adjust the exposure to give you the best photo for the subject. Your index finger, remember we talked about that last week? Your index finger is part of your photography. Your photography, use that index finger and point onto your subjects on the screen, and you will get perfect, perfect focus and exposure. Okay, so you see that. Next, grid lines. You know I talked about that 1,000 times. Enable grid lines to easily apply the rule of thirds. This small adjustment transforms ordinary shots into visually compelling compositions. Right? The grid lines. Go into your phone, whether it's an Apple phone or a Android. Go into settings, and there's a little section that says grid lines on or off. Grid lines on or off. Turn on your grid lines. I do not photograph without grid lines. Why? Let's show the grid lines. Now you see these grid lines, right? You see these grid lines? It creates what's called 9 boxes. 9 boxes, right? However, there are only 4 points of connection. 4 points. We call it the focal points. Right here, right here, right here, and right here, right? 4 points. Your subject should fall upon one of these points. So if you are taking a picture of a person, then that person should fall, their eyeball should fall here, their eyeball could fall here. If you want to be make something interesting, you can have the eyeball fall here. Or you can take their nose, wherever your subject, part of your subject should land on one of these intersecting lines for a good composition. Can I say that again? Your subject should land on one of these intersecting lines for better composition. Also, why do you use the grid? You can see your horizon line. So for instance, if you're doing landscape photography and you're at the beach and you see, there's a horizon and there's landscape, you can use this bottom portion for your horizon. And you can land your horizon and keep your, most people have these like lopsided pictures when they do landscape photos or when they do cityscape photos. To prevent lopsided photos, use the line. Use your grid. And you can, again, change the composition by either putting the horizon on this line or bringing the horizon up to this line, right? And that is how you control your composition. Okay, where's in the bill? I see in here. Good morning, good mornings. And Mimi says, the photo in my profile was at sunset. Love the reflections on water at sunset. Yes. Anthony says, when I shoot real estate, grid lines and the green horizon line is a must. There you go, another photographer telling you it is so important. Most of us photographers, I don't, not all photographers use grid lines, but most of us do. Most of us use the grid. Turn on the grid and land your subject on one of these points, and you will have a better photo. Next, manual adjustments. Some smartphones offer manual controls or pro mode for brightness, shutter speed, and ISO. Experiment with these settings to adapt to various lighting conditions. When you go onto your phone and you take out that camera and you look at the bottom of the camera, you see there's a list of items that you can scroll through: cinema, time lapse, video, photo, portraits, spatial, and pano. You can adjust according to what you're photographing with the mode, the manual modes that you have on your camera. But if you want to take total control of your camera, meaning you want to control your shutter speed and your ISO, you can do that in pro mode in an Android and also in your Apple phone. Okay, go into pro mode. Okay, there you go. You can control your photography. Okay, next, embrace free editing apps. We've talked about that, right? Free editing apps. A little post-processing can work wonders. Apps like Snapseed, you heard me say this 1,000 times, Snapseed, or Lightroom Mobile are free and offer powerful editing tools to enhance exposure, contrast, and color without extra gear. A few thoughtful tweaks can dramatically improve your image impact. One person asked me a question years ago. Do you post, do you always edit your photos before posting? Now, I would have to say, up until this year, that was the truth. I pretty much edit every photo. However, I am finding I have this Apple Pro 16 Pro, I should say. It is so good at figuring out exposure. It has been blowing my mind on how good this camera is operating. Shout out to the Apple people, because I used to never trust an Apple phone because they were never better than Androids, like a Samsung. The Samsungs had the best cameras in the smartphone industry. There are now many great smartphone cameras in the industry. So you don't always have to use the editing tool, but you might want to if you want to really make that photo like extra beautiful, cropping it, adjusting it, changing the contrast, because you might have a style that you like and you can create. That's what you can use these apps for: Snapseed, Lightroom. Also, when I'm doing in the middle of, like when I was in the middle of protests and I wanted to send photos and say, I'm going to send this to ABC News, CBS, I would do it quickly on a Snapseed, using Snapseed, and then hashtag them and put, and if they wanted to use it, they could use it. Or I put them in my my posting. So Snapseed, Lightroom, use those for your phone. And I'll also say, in your phone, you do have editing capability with the phone itself. Okay. Experiment with angles and compositions. We talked about that. Creativity is your only limit. Play with different angles. Look for interesting reflections. And don't be afraid to center an unconventional subject. Even a simple change in perspective can make an everyday scene extraordinary. Remember, I was saying get low or shoot from above. Everyone shoots straight on. So that means that's a regular photo, right? That's an ordinary photo. Anyone can shoot straight on. But your photo becomes interesting when you take it from a different perspective. That you move to the left, you move to the right, you go low and shoot up, you go from above and shoot down. Change your perspective will give you better photography. Better photography. You'll have better pictures. People will think you are a professional photographer because of these tips. And you're not spending any extra money to do it. People say, oh, I need the greatest gear. No, you do not. You got the greatest gear. These great inventions called smartphones, and they do a heck of a lot. As a matter of fact, some of the most amazing photo shoots today, movies are done on smartphones. Scenes that you think are part of regular big camera movies or photography, covers on certain magazines, smartphones. So use them, but also be creative with them, right? Look for the unordinary, right? Here we go. Look at that. Look at that photo. It's a silhouette. Kid playing with the soccer ball or the football. If you're overseas and not in America, it's just called simply the football. Get low. Look up. Or just create a little foreground. You see the person's hair on the left-hand side, kind of like gives a little anchor. We call that foreground. It makes the picture a little more interesting. It makes you feel like you are right there by adding foreground. We'll do a topic on that. We'll do a whole subject on that at some point this year. Foreground is important to images. They say the perfect photo is one that has foreground and background, and then your subject is beautifully photographed. You need background and foreground to create a wonderful story. A bit more to ponder. You don't need a treasure trove of expensive gear to tell your story. Sometimes the limitations of a smartphone can spark unexpected creativity. Experiment with light trails in low light settings or play with vibrant reflections in puddles. Right, Janet? Janet knows about those reflections in the puddles, reflections off buildings, reflections off the windows. These techniques can become signature elements of your visual narrative by focusing on storytelling through composition and light. You transform everyday moments into unforgettable images. I gotta say that last part again. By focusing on storytelling through composition and light, you transform everyday moments into unforgettable images. So important. So important. I see here, Anthony says, thank you, Dr. Tatiana and Hannah. I builder that I haven't talked to a 3-year called me out nowhere, asked me to photograph a building. They did, and it's been on since. He's a photographer, fellow photographer. You want to hear something really interesting? I have a friend, and Omar. Omar is working at a corporation now and doing his thing. But when Omar is out on the streets, I when we were hanging out, when he was here in New York, I observed him doing this everywhere we went. And he would take out his smartphone and he would be taking the most amazing shots of architecture all over the city, just taking these amazing shots of architecture. And then he would post these photos of architecture that he shot with his phone. And do you know, companies, couple of companies reached out to him and say, "Hey, could you do some architectural photography for us?" So don't underestimate the power you have in your hand. He loves architecture. So he takes photos of everything architecture. With you with Omar, he's photographing every building, every city skyline. That's how he rolls. But that may not be your thing. That, as they say, that may not be your jam. You might like taking pictures of flowers. Everywhere you go, take pictures of flowers and start building a portfolio. Maybe go and put an Instagram page together, just nothing but flowers. Your flowers taken by your smartphone. Someone might reach out and say, you know what? This girl is good with taking pictures of flowers. I'm a florist. I need someone to come in and take pictures of flowers. It could open up avenues for you. So here we are talking about budget, right? Taking photos on a budget. But now taking that and also making money from it or from your passion, because eventually what happens is people see your passion in the work that you're posting. And then they will give you a call. May not be a lot, it may not be a whole 100 people calling you at one time, but someone will call you and say, I've been watching how you take photos of such and such. Could I hire you to do it for my business? The power of your smartphone. And I guarantee you, if you take this one lesson I'm sharing with you today, your photography will improve 100%. If you didn't know none of this stuff, and now you apply all of it, your photography will improve 100%. And it will open doors for you. Anthony said, and there's my Janet. There's my Janet. Janet says, yes, Ron, I look. Yes. She looks for, I mean, when we are hanging out, when Janet and I are hanging out in the streets of New York, she'll see a reflection in the mirror and she'll be drawn, not the mirror, in a window. I see her just slide away. I say, I know she caught a reflection somewhere. Everyone has their thing. Find your niche. You'll be surprised at what you can do with it. Anthony says, Omar has been schooling me on architectural photography. He's now the lead photographer of an architectural firm here in Dallas. And the reason is because that's what he does. He posts all his architectural photos, and this company saw him and say, hey, can we hire you? Anything's possible. Mimi says architectural photography is very popular. Mimi also says, or a YouTube page. Remember the show Sunrise Earth. So guys, next, and then we're going to keep pushing boundaries and let each shot inspire you to look at the world with fresh, inventive eyes. Happy shooting. And here's to turning your budget limitations into creative strengths. And if you want to go an extra mile, If you're curious about diving deeper, consider exploring long exposure techniques using your phone with the right apps and steady hand or a simple tripod. Get some of these little guys, right? I got these little, well, these are my, we got all these little toys to play with, right? Hold on a second. Let me get this other toy up here. Here we go. Oops, there we go. We got all these toys to play with your smartphone and gadgets that you can use to control your phone in other ways of using other techniques in photography. There you have it. Any questions? Any questions, class? You have a Q&A section right now. You have Q&A. You have a moment of Q&A. We are good. We're on time. I knew it was going to take a little longer, so I said, let me go in because it was a combination of many lessons that we've been going over, right? So I hope you learned something today. Oh, you know how I like to roll. Put in the comment box one thing you learned. Put in the comment box one thing you learned. And if you're here for the first time, make sure you hit the likes. Make sure you hit the like. As they say, I learned a new term this weekend. Smash the like. Smash the like. Jazzy says, no questions, but this, as always, was great. Dr. Tachi says, this was wonderful. Jazzy, she gets the applause. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? This is your time. I'm here for you. I am here for you. Okay. Okay. Janet says, fab. Fab. Yes, Janet is a reflection. She'd be looking for those puddles, looking for the water, looking for the wall, looking for the glass door, looking for the glass window, looking for the windows, she is. We're both the same way because I look for the reflections everywhere. I'm looking for reflections all over the city. We live in a great city. New York City has lots of shadows and lights. Lots of areas all over the city where there's lots of light and lots of shadows, and a combination of both, because we have these beautiful big buildings that light is reflecting off of. So there we go. Mimi says, angles are everything. Let me check these buildings out. Yes, yes. Check out those buildings. Yes. Dr. Tati says, I love how you said to experiment with light trails. Yes, because a natural phenomena with smartphones is that because of the way the lenses are set in the phone, you get these natural beams and trails, light trails. You get also what we call sunbeams. If you shoot at different angles, you'll get these beautiful trails of light, especially during sunrise and sunsets, which enhance the photo and make the photo a little bit more cinematic, more drama. Danette says, because of you, I have become more adventurous with my phone features. That's what it's about, Danette. That's right. That's why I do this. That's why I do it. Aya says, thank you, Ron. Don't underestimate the power you have in your hand. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hannah says, the best time to take photos. That's what she learned. The best time to take photos. There you go. Any others? Any others? Any others out there? Okay. So, Derek says, I learned to make the subject on the line of the grid. That's right. Take that grid, use your grid, put your subject on the intersecting lines. You have 4 of them in the grid. 4 of them in the grid. Yes, thank you, Derek. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else out there? Anyone else? Did you learn something? Who else learned something? Who else learned something today? Let me see if anyone in the Instagram world learn anything today. Okay, I just see join. How was your assignment? Assignment was great. Brooklyn Lens over in Instagram. Yes, my assignment went well. Took a lot of photos and yes, I'm getting those ready for my clients today. So they'll be able to have them by the end of the workday. So they will have their photos. It was a big project, a very big project, but worth every moment of it. And I use these tips every day in my work. Every day in my work, I use these tips as an event photographer because I do event photography. I teach, but I do mostly event photography. That's how I make my money, right? Daisy says I learned about foreground. Let's definitely have a future class on that. Foreground is so. How about this? Next week we'll do foreground. That sounds like a good idea. We'll do foreground, the importance of foreground in your pictures. Can I show? Let me see. Let me see if I can do that. Hold on a second. I've been working on. Let me see. I could share this with you. I'm sure I could do that with you. I could share. Hold on. This is from the project I'm working on. Oh, there's a question. There's a question. It says, please suggest the best hashtags for emerging photographers. Ooh. Well, the typical ones are photography, hashtag photo, hashtag landscape, if it's a landscape, hashtag um, cityscape, hashtag whatever the subject is you're doing, hashtag it. So always put in your hashtag photography, hashtag photo, and then hashtag whatever you are photographing. Hashtag horse, hashtag hat, hashtag reflections, hashtag. So those are your main hashtags. Whatever that main thing you're photographing, the subject, hashtag the subject. Okay. Now, if you think your photos are published, is publishable a word? I think it is. Publishable. Then you can hashtag periodicals. For instance, when I am in the field, if I'm photographing, for instance, I will always do hashtag photograph, hashtag photo, hashtag event photography. Because I want other event photographers or people that are interested in event photography to see my work in that flow. Hashtag where you want your work to go. Also, if I want Nikon to see a particular photo, then I will hashtag Nikon, hashtag Canon, I'm a Nikon camera user, or I will now say hashtag Apple. I used to say hashtag Samsung, right? And then sometimes I'll go even further and tag. If I think this is a photo I really want someone to see and they may be able to use it in a publication, I will say hashtag New Yorker, hashtag National Geographic, and I'll tag them with at National Geographic, at Nikon, at New York Times, at these are periodicals. And so I've been in Forbes, I've been in National Geographic, I've been in the New Yorker, I've been in Interior Design Magazine, and then a bunch of other magazines here in the city, periodicals. So I hashtag, or if I really want to like push it, I'll do the at and put them in there. Okay. Does that answer? Was that a good? Did I answer your question, Aya? Okay. TB says, The blur of foreground usually gives me crazy, it drives me crazy, but I'll reframe my brain. Well, it's in how the person, or I should say, it's in how the photographer uses the foreground. Because, and we'll go into this next week, but the foreground can be used to frame your subject. You can frame your subject by using foreground and background. And then the picture of the person, like you see this, like this would be foreground, this will be background, and my face is the subject. Now, notice how my hand is blurry, this is blurry, but my face is sharp. You can use it to kind of like frame your subject. So no, I mean, some foreground can be irritating, but you can use it to frame your subject. You can use it for color. And this is what Janet just said, color. Like also when I do street photography, I go hashtag street photography. But I want to show you something that foreground, since you did bring that up. And I was working on a photo yesterday for my client. And I was using it for the cover. So this is, let me see, here we go. Let me see, where we go, here we go, here we go. Okay, so this is my work project that I was working on for a client. And I want you to see how I'm using foreground for their cover page. So this is the cover page, and I use the greenery. You see the foreground, there was some plants there on the table, and I use the foreground of the plants just to kind of give it some color and to kind of like soften the edge of this frame. So that way I'm using it to soften the floor. I didn't really want to look at the end of the table. I didn't want them to look at the edges of the bottom of, but it was a way of framing, helping to frame their event. You see the lights are nicely lined up here. So you got the lights on the top. I want to make sure their branding was there, the name, everything was there so this would be their title page when they share it with the rest of their constituents. So I photograph. So I use foreground for that. And then the background is you see the table and plants, flowers back there and chairs. So it's kind of like trying to figure out how you want to center your subject and then frame it depending on the story you're trying to tell. Okay, does that make sense? And I mean, there's lots of photos that I'll just, you know, there's another foreground I'm using with the client. I'm using it throughout. So this is an event that I photographed just recently. So and this is an event was huge. Lots of people, and I'm using layers. I'm using people as foreground. I'm using people as background. That's how you do event photography. There's layers. Like you see, like I'm gonna go back to one of these guys. So you see, I'm using this plant in the corner to kind of like anchor her back, so that way you don't see her back. And I want to photograph him because he's the subject. So it's it's framing, it's creating your photo so that way it looks appealing. So when they see the photos, they're gonna be like, "Holy moly, this is a great photo! This is great shots." And there's lots of them. So this was lots of work to do every image. But I'll be finished with that today and get that over to them by the end of the day. But lots of work, right? So this is what I do as an event photographer. So I take all of these, what I shared with you guys, I take all of this information on my camera. In my camera is the grid. I use the grid. I put my subjects on one of those 4 intersecting lines. I take and figure out how to use my foreground as a framing. How does it adjust between the foreground and the background? So you got to see my work in action. This is what my clients pay me for. I'm the expert. So I have to make sure I know all of this information. I'm not sharing with you stuff that I don't know. I'm sharing with you things that I do every single day of my life. Whether I'm in the street doing street photography with my meetup group. Oh, speaking of meetup group, you will have your announcement probably tomorrow. We are meeting in Times Square for this month's meetup. So we'll be doing that. Let me see what you guys are saying here, because you guys are in there. I like that. I like that. Kaz says, interesting. She says, interesting to know about architecture, since always taking pictures of the skyline with various buildings or monuments. There you go. And Janet says, hashtag color, hashtag black and white. Kaz says, great tips as always. B says, yes, great live examples. Janet says, you can combine items on a hashtag. Yep. Look at, yes, I see there. And Kaz says, frame subject and use for color. Dr. Tati says, that's a good shot. So look, I'm not giving my clients no shabby stuff. I go all in when I shoot. Anthony says, one of my favorite landscape photos is a 9-shot panoramic photo of the New Orleans skyline. It goes from the Superdome to the Mississippi River. I shot it from a rooftop bar. And on these little smartphones, you can put it in pan. In your Apple phone, put it in pan, and you can get panorama. And if you have a Android, you can put it in panorama. It actually says panorama. And okay, and so there we have it. Okay, guys, I think we've done it. I think we did it. We got some answers in it. We got some Q&A. You got to see some samples. You got to see my work. I got to share with you. I got to take us to our next topic next week. So tomorrow, let me just make sure. Tomorrow, we have a special guest, the founder of a company, and he's going to share. Okay, yep. So he is going to be here tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be our Wisdom Wednesday, and we will have a special guest. Okay, so let's do that. And guys, have a great Tuesday. I hope these tips help you. I know they do. I know they did, and I know they will. So get out there and take some photos. Use those smartphones. You do not need expensive equipment to take great photos. And on that note, I'm leaving you with have a great day. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again. Until I see you next time.